Welcome into the Warchant.com postgame show. Alongside on the left side tonight, Gene Williams, the founder and administrator of Warchant.com. My name is Tom Lang, and we welcome all of you across YouTube, Facebook, and all the social media platforms to the show that is for you. Your reactions, your thoughts. But we'll start with our thoughts as we introduce the finer details. 850-805-5911 to get involved in the post-game show tonight. Florida State falls on the road at Notre Dame. Not unexpected. 42-26 is the final. Gene Williams, your thoughts, because I'll bet you have some good ones and some bad ones.
Yeah, let's take these one at a time. Let's first talk about, we don't know, Jordan Travis at the end of the game hurt his right hand. It looked like we don't have an update on that. When we do, we'll pass that along. We're hoping to hear from Corey or Ira a little bit later, and then Mike Norvell as well, his post-game press conference, so we'll bring that to you too. Hopefully we'll get some clarification there because he went out at the end. You saw James Blackman at the last series. So start out with a positive, Tom. Let's break it down one at a time. Let's talk about the offense. Definite signs of progress. Remember, 26 points, a little over 400 yards in the game. They had 5 scoring drives and 26 points. Remember, this is a team that scored 13 against Georgia Tech. So there is definite, tangible improvement on the offensive side of the ball. I mean, the line was not bad. Yep. There was a running game. I mean, you ran for over 150 yards a game. I know a lot more quarterback. I mean, I think Jordan Travis had over 100 yards himself. But it was impressive. I mean, it was really, you saw real, that's what we want to see out of this team, real tangible improvement. And we've seen it from game 1 to the Notre Dame game. We've seen definite improvement. I mean, we saw it in the Jacksonville State game in the second half, but you're like, man, that's an FCS team. Does that really count? Well, now we're seeing it against the best defense Florida State's faced, and they scored 26 points, and they moved the ball pretty well at times during the game. So that's extremely encouraging. So before we go to the other side of the ball, let me get your thoughts on that, Tom, before we talk about the defense.
I'd say, first of all, the offensive line is no longer the worst segment on the team, one of the worst offensive lines in America. I think we're done with that for now. So that's the number one positive I take away from this game. Florida State was able to generate consistency in the ground as the game wore on a little bit. They provided enough time and enough spots to Jordan Travis for him to take some shots down the field. And then Jordan has one part of the it factor, and that is he has eyes in the back of his head for the rush. He does an exceptional job of being able to flush, to move around, create space and time for himself, and he needs to. This offensive line isn't exactly above average against the curve of college football. It's just not the worst offensive line in college football. But there were some dynamic plays tonight, some moments where Florida State needed to be opportunistic, and they were, one time off of a muff punt in the first half. It's just the offense is going to put a smile on your face, Gene, moving forward into the rest of the schedule. It's the defense that you're asking even more fundamental questions week after week. But it's crazy to think this is where we are in early October, because the preseason expectations were that the offense is the one that's going to be the thing that we just throw our hands in the sky about. And the defense is going to hold it down and give the offense a chance to get it together. It's been the exact opposite, hasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it is surprising. I really thought the defense, all the reports we heard in the preseason was how good these guys are. They're flying around. Jordan Travis is unblocked, or not Jordan Travis, Josh Kando is unblockable in practice. Boy, absolutely nothing. And that defensive line, all the preseason accolades, they got the best defensive line in college football. Give me a break. Man, they were just absolutely dominant. We do Notre Dame had a great offensive line, and they really do, and they showed it tonight. They absolutely dominated Florida State in the trenches there, without a doubt. So let's talk a little about there. By the way, I got word. We're going to try, if we can do it, Tom. It is official. Mike Norvell is going to go live via stream on YouTube, so we're going to try to bring that in here shortly. If we can, if not, we'll have it on later. Warchant.com always has his post-game press conference. We'll bring that to you later if we can't bring it to you live here. But
hopefully, if I can.
Hopefully we'll have it here for you live here shortly. But, yeah, I want to talk about a little of this defense. I mean, it's so bad. It's hard to even quantify how bad this thing. It's the worst I've seen, Tom. And I've been around a while. I'm an old guy. I've been around a while. I thought maybe that 2009 defense was the worst I've ever seen. No, this is worse than that. And first half, 365 yards given up in the first half, 240 rushing yards, 35 points, and that was with them turning the ball over twice.
Yeah,
that might have been 50 points in a half if they not turned the ball over. It was that bad. And here, I want to get to the crux, man. We mentioned this off the air before we started this, Tom. To me, this is the worst linebacking core in college football. Now, granted, I have not seen every college football team play this year. I've hardly seen any of them, but I can't imagine anybody has a worse linebacking core. If they were not out of position, they were missing tackles, they were a liability. And I know people say, well, bench Rice, bench Warner. Man, I saw him bring other people in there all the time. Some of the young guys came in there, and they were awful too. They're just not ready. I saw Lundy came in a couple times, and he did awful as well. The defensive backs were not doing great tackling either. And as you brought up that point, Tom, I didn't realize that in the stat. 1 tackle for loss. That is insane in an FBS game that your team, with all these great athletes and all that speed, 1 tackle for loss. And it's not like they didn't have chances. There was easily, I don't know, I mean, what do you think, 7, 8 times they had a guy wrapped up in the backfield, or they just missed him, or he bounced off of him, Tom?
Easily. I totally agree with you, Gene. And we're going to cut here momentarily to Mike Norvell sitting down at the podium. I couldn't agree with you more. Chances to make plays in the backfield. Notre Dame bounces off would-be tacklers a bunch. But for right now, I'm going to pull off the stats, this ugly stat sheet for the defense, and we're going to move over to Mike Norvell's postgame press conference here, live on the Warchant.com postgame show.
Tonight,
I'll pull it up right now. You hear him. Let's see him.
Plays necessary to be successful in the game. I was overall you're disappointed in the outcome. I thought our guys battled to the end, and it's obviously a lot of work goes into each and every game that we have the opportunity to play, and it's unfortunate that we weren't able to apply some of the things throughout the course of the game to put ourselves in the best position to be successful. We struggled to stop the running game. We failed to convert on third downs offensively, missed a couple opportunities, just throughout the course of the contest. But I thought our guys, did battle. I was really proud of them. Even there at the end, down 16, Notre Dame had the ball down at the goal line, and you guys just continued to fight to keep them out of the end zone, just so we can get another possession and another opportunity. This football team is continuing to grow. We're continuing to work away through our process, and I definitely believe in what the future holds. We just have to do a better job in all aspects, players, coaches, everybody, applying the lessons that we're learning and the things that we're implementing throughout the course of the week. Because when you play good opponents, you have to apply that for 60 minutes. There's some bright moments, but obviously we didn't get the job done.
All right, first question will be Kurt Weiler from You seem obviously you've talked about the growth you made. Obviously, not happy in that it didn't kind of make an outcome in the result. Is the term? I mean, is moral victory something you say just in terms of comparing what the team looked like on a similar stage against a similar opponent 2 weeks ago and the growth you've seen since then? Or are you hesitant to even say anything of that sort after the game?
No, I mean, I'm proud. I mean, I'm proud that I see our guys, competing. But at the end of the day, this is about going out there and competing to be the best that you could possibly be. And I think in all aspects, started with myself, coaches, players, everybody involved. I don't know if we saw that. I know we didn't see that. There's things that I would like to have done better throughout the course of the contest. A couple of calls, a couple of situations that I have to improve in. And then we've got to apply the fundamentals and the things that we work every day in practice with. Those got to show up, and they've got to show up in those critical situations. They've got to show up, in all aspects. So we had some missed opportunities throughout it, and so we're all disappointed. You invest so much time, so much effort into a game to put yourself in the best position to win the contest, and we didn't do that. We didn't do it. You definitely didn't do it consistently enough. Even with some bright spots throughout the course.
Mike, how would you assess Jordan Travis's performance tonight in his first start?
I thought he played extremely tough. He had a lot of different looks, a lot of things that were kind of thrown his way. I thought he made some really good decisions, and there's some things that he'll be able to learn from. But it was a gutsy performance. He carried the ball a good number of times throughout the game. I thought he definitely provides a great dynamic for us. We just we had our moments. We had a couple explosive plays. We got into a rhythm there throughout on some drives. We just really struggled in the third down situations. I think we were 2 of 14 on third downs. We were able to convert some fourth downs, but at the end of the day, it's got to be a situation that we've got to be able to extend those drives. A lot of those we were in longer yardage situations. We've got to make sure that we eliminate some of those mistakes that got us into those situations. But I thought all in all, I thought Travis, you played hard, you prepared well, and you was going to continue to grow.
The one thing you hadn't had happen defensively in the first few weeks was just busted big plays. You hadn't given up a lot of long touchdowns tonight. I mean, they had 3 or 4 runs over like 40 yards. Any common thread to what would happen there?
It all kind of it works together in some aspects. Obviously, we were playing a little tighter down here tonight, which with that. We've got to be on point. We've got to make tackles. We've got to make sure that we're fitting our gaps. We had some missed opportunities in both of those areas, and when that happens, and we've had a little bit more man coverage tonight, in what we were doing, and it provided some some big play opportunities when they broke through the forcing unit, and there were a handful of those plays. It comes down to assignment football. It comes down to playing with great fundamentals. And then when we get an opportunity to make the play, we've got to make sure that we're running our feet through contact and finishing them. But it's something that we'll learn from, and we definitely have to improve.
Coach, the team took a number of penalties tonight. During the half, what did you tell your team to kind of eliminate those penalties?
It's a big focus of ours. We had a couple of focus penalties throughout, but it's something that we're emphasizing. We've got to continue to make the choice to play a cleaner game. Obviously, we want to be the least penalized team in each contest, and we didn't get that done tonight. So.
Coach, there were a couple of times tonight where you had some momentum going on the offense, and then it just got taken away by Notre Dame driving down the field and stopping the momentum. I'm thinking particularly when you were down 14-3, you came back, and then when you opened the second half, you had a nice drive to open the second half, and both which I thought maybe were momentum drives. Can you talk about that, how momentum can change in a game, how you can?
Yeah, that's, it's part of every contest. Like I tell our guys all the time, momentum affects the teams that allow it to. And it really comes down to one play, making sure that, when you have it and it's going your way, that, you stay focused on the play that's in front of you and continue to play at a high level. And then, if things are going against you, just focus on doing your job the next play to make that game-changing, play or opportunity. And that really goes to the mental toughness that goes to trusting the fundamentals and applying the things that we work on throughout the course of the week, throughout the course of the game. But you got to give credit to Notre Dame. It's a good football team that we played. They seize the opportunities at times, and obviously you did what was necessary to win the game.
Coach, the defensive line came up and had a really big stop towards the end of the game in the fourth quarter. You talked about it in your opening statement. Is that the kind of effort that you want to see, play in and play out from those guys to kind of make sure that you're getting pressure up front on a consistent basis?
And we have to continue to make an impact in our forcing units, from our D-line, linebacker, safeties. Everybody has a role. Everybody has a responsibility. It comes down to make sure that we're winning our gap. Then when we're in a position to make the play, we've got to finish the play. I think that effort could be something that defines you, and I obviously need to go back and watch the tape individually, but there's that relentless pursuit of the ball, relentless pursuit of utilizing your fundamentals and technique to put yourself in the best position, and then just continuing to finish. I think that there at the end, that last drive there in the fourth quarter, I was really I was pleased that they found a way to keep them out of the end zone. And but obviously we have to be consistent throughout the course of the game. At all positions. It's offense, defense, special teams. Everybody's involved in it. So we've got to continue to work. We've got to continue to develop that mindset and that toughness. And but I believe that these guys will get that done.
Hey, Mike, I had two questions for you. One, I wanted to get your thoughts. What were your thoughts on Tamarian Terry's performance? So he put up big numbers today. And then second, Jordan Travis, would he have been able to come back in the game possibly? How's the hand, I guess, moving forward for him?
Yeah, I mean, that's something we'll look at. He was struggling there late, being able to grip the ball. And so that we made a decision, getting James in there. They're late in the contest, but I thought Tamarian, played at a high level. He, made some big plays, made some plays through contact. Caught the ball, better, and it was something that we knew that we would need tonight. We knew that was going to be a big part of if we get a one-on-one opportunity with him to be able to see him rise up and have that type of performance. But he's been preparing in a much better way throughout the course of the week, and these last 2 weeks I think he's played his best 2 games of the season. And so continuing to challenge and continuing to inspire him because he was a very talented young man, and I thought he did a great job here tonight.
Coach, I'm sure you don't pay much attention to odds makers and stuff, but you guys were a 3-touchdown underdog. You had an opportunity to cut within 1 score in the third quarter against the number 5 team on the road. I mean, just your tone, kind of being so, I guess, disappointed in the result. Just what did tonight's opportunity mean for you and this team, and how are you processing it?
Oh, we had some missed opportunities. I thought we put ourselves in a position that we could have, obviously been in a situation to win the game, and that's why we came here. We came here with a purpose to play to the best of our ability, to put ourselves in a position to achieve that success, and obviously for a lot of different reasons. Like I said, coaches, players, everybody involved. We didn't do what was necessary to beat the top, whatever they're ranked in the country, but we have to continue to work. And we don't do things for moral victories. I don't really care what odds makers or people's outside perception. I want to see us play our best ball. I want to be able to take the things that we do throughout the course of a week of practice. I want to see it applied. I want to make sure that our football team is continuing to grow together, because I've got a lot of belief in the young men that are sitting in that locker room, and I know that they're working hard. They've had a lot of change. There's been a lot of things that have gone on. Different expectations through every aspect of what they do. I definitely believe that we're doing things the right way, and we're going to continue to grow from that. But I hurt just like every kid in there hurts whenever we come up short. And like I said, I appreciate the effort that we had to finish it. I appreciate a lot of the things that we were able to do. But we came here to win the game, and obviously we did not get that done.
Mike, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you. What made Notre Dame's offensive line and running game so difficult to defend, and what kind of stood out to you about those two?
Well, I mean, like I mentioned earlier, there were some missed opportunities that we had. I mean, that's a good offensive line. There's a lot of experience. Good players. They've got great size. I mean, they a lot of continuity in what they're being asked to do. They're well established. They've been a successful offense, over the last few years, and that you could see the that continuity and how well they play together, whether it was movements, different things that we tried to do. I mean, they handled it, pretty well, and they're talented. So if we don't apply the fundamentals and techniques that we're trying to utilize that consistently, they can make you pay. And it only takes especially when you have explosive backs and a quarterback that that operates the way that Book does. It takes all hands on deck. And so I thought they did a nice job executing their game plan in the run game, and obviously it hurt us tonight.
Coach, on that interception in in the end zone, excuse me, what do you think led to it, and what was your message to Jordan after it?
Obviously, I think Jordan, as he was getting out on the edge, felt a little bit of pressure, probably there into his face, but just kind of was behind a little bit on the football. You'd like the ball to be outside a little bit more, and the guy made a good play on it. And it's it's unfortunate that that happened. Just continuing to teach the situation. It was a third down situation. We'd still have another down. Obviously we'd like to try to miss outside if we're going to miss on that. But Jordan competed tonight. And I thought he competed extremely hard. He competed with his arm, with his legs. I mean, I thought he threw around his body. And that everybody's disappointed in the moment when a play doesn't go your way. But he'll respond. We'll respond. And obviously, we're all in this thing together. And it was just an unfortunate outcome to the play.
There were a couple of penalties or things out of frustration, but for the most part, did you like the responses you saw during the game? It seemed like there were certain opportunities for different people to maybe not handle themselves as well as they did overall. We're working on all aspects of who we are and our identity, and it doesn't as you go through life, you go through a season, you go through a game. I mean, there's going to be frustrations. There's going to be things that show up that that you don't like, or that you have that your emotions want to overtake the situation. But you always got to be in control of those. And there were a couple of negative things that showed up tonight. But all in all, I mean, I thought what our guys were saying, the message, our coaches were coaching throughout the contest. Which just. We've got to do a better job. And, I think our guys, they understand the way that we're going to operate. They understand, the standard which we're going to hold to. We're not meeting that, consistently through the course of a game. But, I do believe that we are seeing improvements in a lot of areas. And that improvement's going to have to continue to show itself. It's going to have to continue to show itself, Sunday through Friday. And then you get an opportunity to play the best ball come Saturday. Like I told the team, I thought Tuesday was a really good work day, in practice. I thought that Wednesday was substandard. There were some substandard moments that showed up that I think you can apply back to that Wednesday's practice. Everything counts. Everything matters. From what our approach to what you do academically is going to matter, because I want to have a football program, and we're going to have a football program where it truly has that all-inclusive mindset and an approach. If we want to be detailed, if we want to be focused, if we want to be disciplined, that needs to show up in our daily lives. And we ask our guys to do a lot, but I believe in the standard that we're setting, and I believe that these young men absolutely want to be held to that standard. And we just have to continue to grow together, and you'll be able to uphold that day in and day out. But I absolutely believe that will get accomplished, and we're going to continue to get better and play at a high level. Thank you.
All right, Gene. So that was Mike Norvell right here on the Warchant.com postgame show. For those of you who dialed in, he said, "We're Gene and Tom." Here we are. Live to Mike Norvell's comments tonight, as Florida State was able to provide that to us. We do appreciate the folks at Seminoles.com for streaming that live so we can bring it to you.
Mm-hmm.
But Gene, we were talking about the linebacker play before this thing started, and Mike was clearly melancholy. And the reason for Florida State fans to be melancholy coming out of a game where there is positive to take away, it would be the performance of the defense. So your thoughts on the defense in general, and/or some of the things that Mike had to say right there.
Yeah, that's going to be the downside of this whole. That's going to be the theme that we're going to talk about probably all week. Is just the defense has not shown any progress since game one. The offense is showing pretty significant improvement from game one to Notre Dame. One of the things I looked at, and I know people, when I see people on social media fire Fuller, all this, I get it. I understand. But when you see a defense that is that bad, it's really hard to not throw the defensive coordinator into the bus. And there's definitely some things he can improve on, man. But I think when you got to look at a lot of things, so the recruiting, it goes back to that. You got to have the right players. They do not have the right players at linebacker. We talked about that earlier. They just don't have the bodies, whether it's the seniors or the freshmen are ready, whatever. They're just not performing. It doesn't matter. A lot of times they dialed up the right defense. The guy was there to make a play, and he didn't make the play, or he took the wrong angle, or he can't fight off a block. And when you have an entire offseason, you don't get to work with these guys, and they're all guys they haven't worked with before. That's really hard on a defense to do that. So I get that. Another stat I looked at, I wrote about it a little bit last week, Tom, and that's the number of players that have left the program since Mike Norvell got here. With a change in staff, that's natural. You're going to have guys. It's a different culture, different system. Guys are going to leave. I think they've had 18 guys leave since he's here, and I think 8 of those guys that have left were defensive guys who are rated 4 stars or higher on defense. So a lot of those guys would be starting right now, more experienced, highly rated guys, pretty talented. And then you also throw in Travis Jay is out and Hamza Nasruddin is out. That's 2 more starters out. So you probably have 2/3 of your starting lineup who should be out there on defense are not there right now, and you don't get to work with in the offseason. It sounds like I'm making excuses. I get it. When you see a defense get gashed like that, you want to just say, fire everybody, all this. But, man, context matters. There's a lot going on here with that defense. You can't just say that. Now, I do think we need to see some improvement across the board, and as these coaches get to work with the guys more in practice, we should start to see that. We haven't seen it yet. So we have having this conversation in November, Tom. I might say, well, maybe we need to start looking at some of the coaching there. I'm not ready to throw them under the bus just yet.
I can understand that. If you don't have the horses at linebacker, you saw it on the first touchdown, the drag concept, and Warner and Rice, they run into each other, and they don't have the speed to get where they need to be to get to the point. It would be like, Gene, if you put a thought bubble above the linebackers' heads, and what are they thinking? The Zach Galifianakis or Winona Ryder thing where you see the equations that they're staring at in their head.
Yeah.
That's what it would look like. They're trying to think their way through rather than just play the game. That's why you see these false steps. It's like a jab step or two while they're thinking and diagnosing where they should be instead of playing loose and free. Look at the way some of the plays played out for Notre Dame's linebackers tonight, and some of the ways they could scrape and pursue and make backside. Not just the big hits in the backfield like the one LaDamian Webb took, which is an all-time.
I can't believe he got up from that one.
Neither can I. And then they gave the ball to him the next play. It's crazy. But you're seeing guys pursue, and they're not thinking; they're just playing. And so, to your point, maybe you can get to that place with lesser athletes and lesser talent than we're used to at Florida State, and it looks a little bit better. But it's a tough ask. It really is. Yeah. And tonight, of course, on the Warchant.com call-in show, there is a call-in. The phone lines are jammed up.
I feel bad, but we got Norvell. We want to do that live, and we got a lot to digest. There's still some more things I want to say, but this is your show, as Tom said. So you got to get to you guys waiting patiently.
805-5911. That's the number. 850 is the area code. And we go to the 850 first. He's about to hear the bell. His name is Nick. He's here in Tallahassee. And Nick, welcome to the Warchant.com postgame show. Thanks for your patience, sir. And what say you on tonight's game?
Hey, guys. Yeah, I really appreciate what Norvell said, or especially Gene, when you're talking about the defense and, there's no scapegoating and stuff. That's kind of what I talked about, in the sense that a traditional FSU defense wins us that game. So kind of what can be done that kind of fixes that projecting to next year, in the sense that I think we need a spring. I need more time. I need to get the scheme right in these guys' minds, like what you were talking about just prior. But is it just purely the players, or is it kind of a combination coach and player?
Thanks, Nick. That is going to be the underlying question. I think obviously there's players. They have not recruited well at the position. That's the first thing. It's all about the Jimmies and the Joes, and I think they've failed there, and that goes back to late Jimbo and then Willie Taggart obviously not getting the requisite guys. Now, I did see, again, Amari Gaynor is the one bright spot. He led FSU in tackles with 11. You're seeing him come around more and more, so I do think there's some signs there. they got some young linebackers. I mean, Steven Dick's out there some. I don't know. He was he was hit and miss. I know he got hurt. Hopefully he's okay. I don't even know if Jaleel McRae even got out there. Did we see him, Tom? I was a little surprised he didn't get playing time out there. So I think it goes back to recruiting. You got to keep building that base. And the beautiful thing is with the transfer portal, if I can get a stud linebacker, woo, man, would that be a huge help for this defense next year? I'm saying next year priorities a defensive end or two and a linebacker or two, I think would do wonders for this defense next year. And a lot of it, like I mentioned earlier, Nick, is just these guys the coaches having more time to work with the linebackers. They were deprived of that because of the pandemic. So these guys are trying to learn a new system, and they're not the best athletes. They're not the best players anyway. So it's kind of been a bad combination. But I do think we're going to see some minor, I don't think it's going to be huge, but minor improvement as the season goes on.
Well, and take a look at those numbers, Gene, for tackles. You've got one defensive lineman who has more than one tackle in this game. Corey Durden with 4. Nobody else has more than one tackle on the defensive line. And that was supposed to be the thing that Florida State could consider the foundation of the defense, the foundation of the team. And while I completely agree with you on not a lot of time to scheme, roster attrition, the defensive line has no excuse whatsoever.
No.
Compared to expectations. These guys were supposed to be amongst the best in the conference, amongst the best in the country, and it just hasn't been that way. Next up tonight is Bo. Bo is also from Tallahassee, and I think he also wants to talk a little bit of defense here on the Warchant.com postgame show. Bo's about to hear the bell, and he's going to join Gene and I. Bo, welcome to the program.
Thank you. This is my first time calling in. I think we got to work on the running up the defense. Got to stop the running up the middle, because North Carolina, we have them next week, and that running back is just as good as Notre Dame's. And do you think possibly we'll ever see Chuba Purdy on offense?
Yeah, I think when Notre Dame did that trap play really well, and that's a very experienced offense. A lot of those guys, if not all of them, are going to play in the NFL. And you saw why in this game. So, yeah, they ran extremely well up the middle. You're right. It's scary. North Carolina runs well, and they got Sam Howell's also a mobile quarterback. And, yeah, that's going to be a tall order for Florida State, obviously, coming up. So, yeah, that's a good point. I think we're going to see Chubb at some point. We hope Jordan Travis is healthy. If he is, I think he's the starter. I don't think there's any doubt about that. So, I don't know how they would work. Hopefully they start coming up with some packages to get Chubb out there occasionally coming forward. But we're going to see him. It's just to what extent this season, I really don't know yet.
Yeah, I can hear the fatigue in Bo's voice of, are we ever going to see Chuba? But, we
got Jordan Travis. How good was he? Man, the dude is awesome. Come on, look. He put up 26 against Notre Dame. This team that put 13 against Georgia Tech. You've increased. You're awful, and at least you're almost okay now. You're like, okay, maybe a little above average on offense now with Jordan Travis out there. So, man, you've improved so much. I get you want to see Chuba. He's a shiny new toy. You haven't opened that present yet. You want to see it. But, man, let's be happy for Jordan Travis.
And there's one skill that Jordan Travis has that, we'll see if Chuba has it, but the ability to run for his life and make it look like he's doing something productive, and he's got an idea of how to make a play, extend it, get 3 yards where there were none, keep his eyes down the field and make a throw. You've got to run for your life a little bit when you're quarterback in Florida State right now. Yeah. Jordan is quite good at that. I see we have a guest in the green room, Gene. Should we bring him in right now?
Yeah, let's bring old Corey Clark in here. Sorry, callers, give us a little bit more time before we got to go. When the Coracle comes on, we have to bring him on immediately.
I was going to say, you better not be apologizing to callers for having Corey Clark on this thing. I need to go get a Coors Light, man.
Yeah, what's up, Corey? I'm prepared. Come on.
Yeah, man. I'm about to go get one in a second.
We can send you back to the green room after your initial thoughts, so you can go grab that refill if you'd like.
Yeah, let me hold on. Give me 5 seconds.
Okay, all right. Back to the green room.
Seriously, gonna do that? All right.
Dean, he called our bluff, so we're gonna go to Austin,
all right,
Washington D.C. Austin just heard the bell. He is on the Warchant.com postgame show. Good evening, Austin. How are you? What do you have to say, and what are your thoughts tonight? Hello, Austin. Are you there? All right.
Well, Austin, did you say he's from Austin, Texas, and his name was Austin?
Austin, go ahead.
Oh, there he is.
Okay. Hey, yeah, so sorry about that.
No problem.
No, I thought it felt so much better than that Miami game. I feel so much improvement on both sides of the ball. Not necessarily with the outcome, especially with the defense, just really doing not that well. But I wanted to specifically point to that fourth down play when we held the goal line. I just thought that Mike Norvell using the timeouts there and giving that defense an opportunity to make up for their bad play the entire night, which was really bad, was a huge moment that someone like Willie Taggart did not give the program for the last 2 years. That, and also even though Blackman came in on the last drive, playing it, like spiking the ball, I just thought that this is such a huge improvement, and those sorts of moments will help our team improve. So that's kind of what I wanted to talk about.
No, Austin, that's a great point. I mean, people are going to look at the end of the game, it's meaningless. But, man, you held Notre Dame when you were gashed the whole game. And I know Notre Dame was kind of killing the clock. You held them to 7 points. You had the goal line stand at the end of the game. And they weren't going all out to score. But, man, the way they gash you throughout the game, that is a victory. And that's going to give a little bit of confidence to those guys. The defense is so bad right now. You grasp on any little victory you have. And it's nice to end a game on a positive like that for that defense. Absolutely. I think you're right. You did not see that the last couple of years with Willie Taggart.
No, there's no doubt, Gene. As we bring Corey back into the fold, that's the best they set the edge all night, was on that fourth down.
Yeah,
off the field.
How about that?
Setting the edge was a problem all night, but you saw the same linebackers who started the game. You saw Janarius Robinson actually flex out and stop something to the perimeter. That's nice for a change. So maybe just a little bit of a sweet taste in the mouth of the defense. But overall, this night, if you're feeling good, you're feeling good about the offense, right, Corey?
Yeah, I mean, I guess you could take some solace in that defensive stand. You know, you're down 16 with 2 minutes left, if you want to call that a stand, but you did keep them out of the end zone.
Hey, you covered.
Yeah, and you did cover. That was a big – and Tirico, I think, without saying it, actually brought it up about how big that fourth down play was for some people. But, yeah, I think it was one of the touchdowns that it was when they had 4th and goal from the 1 or 3rd and goal from the 1. And Janarius Robinson playing defensive end in the first half, I don't know what he did. He just kind of, if you watch it, you're like, what? Man, you're a fifth-year senior. He pushes inside, and the dude could have moonwalked into the end zone.
Mm-hmm.
And so at least on that last play, you saw, okay, he didn't do that again. He went out wide. He pushed that blocker out wide, and that's why they stopped the play. And then Emmett Rice and other guys pursued. It looked like you wanted it to look all night.
Yep.
That's the good news. The bad news is it didn't look like that all night until the end. And why is that? Why now have you played 2 deep offenses with a pulse and you've given up 35 points and a gazillion yards to both of them in a half? You played Miami, Notre Dame. They both had 35 points on you in the half. Florida State's offense did enough. You know, if he hits McDonald on that wide open throw, and I think he thought McDonald was going to turn back in, he kept running kind of towards the sideline. I don't think McDonald knew how open he was either, by the way. But if he makes that throw, or if they score there late, then you put up 5 touchdowns on Notre Dame at Notre Dame, and you still weren't really in it. You know, and that's the defense just has to do enough. You look around the country, look at Florida A&M, look at Alabama, Ole Miss, like. Maybe this is the way of the world in 2020. But, you know, your defense just can't get completely run over. And that's what I thought happened in the first half. In the second half, you know, they did play better, I thought. But when they cut it to – well, they didn't cut it to 1 score because they went for 2, which, by the way, I didn't mind that in that spot. I know it probably makes sense to kick the extra point, but you know Notre Dame's not holding at 35.
Yeah, exactly.
So I like that move, but once you score right out of the locker room and then they go right back down the field, and that was kind of a wrap, I thought, of the game. Nobody scored after that, but you would have liked to seen the defense come out and get a stop there, and they didn't. They're not very good. I don't know how much you blame on Fuller. I mean, this is 3 DCs now. Well, 2 really. The 2017 defense wasn't bad by any means, but Barnett's defenses and now this defense are horrific. And I don't know if I don't know if we can still blame the DC. I mean, at some point you have to get off a block. You know, it's almost like Corey Durden opted out. You know what I mean? Like he hasn't done anything.
Or make a tackle in space. How many times did Notre Dame break through the first tackler? And listen,
That guy's good.
They've got really good players.
Yeah.
And he's got the effect, their tailback, the way that Dalvin does. The guys just bounce off of him. But still, you're allowed also to stop or neutralize a player at once.
And I tweeted about it, but Fuller dialed up early in the second half. I think it was on their touchdown drive. Yep. He dialed up a perfect run blitz where Gant is in the hole right there for a 5-yard loss. We know that dude's hard to tackle one-on-one, but you at least slow him down.
Yeah, exactly. Slow down, get him.
There's no way that can be a positive gain. Not only was it a positive gain, I think it was a first down. And it's like that should have been 2nd and 17. You know it would have been if number 6 for Notre Dame was there.
Absolutely.
That guy's helmet would have flown off. But with Brendan Gant, who at least was trying, and I think he might have only been in the game because Woodby did what Woodby did. But, you can dial up stuff, but the guys have to execute it too. And I'm not one of those guys that believes in just blaming the players. But at some point, you got to win a one-on-one. Marvin Wilson has to make an impact. Corey Durden has to make an impact. Kane Doe, J-Rob, you have to do something. You have to beat a block. You can't stand there and wear a block. Get a push, fight through someone, and make a play. But yes, I did think the offense was good. And if Jordan Travis is healthy and can be healthy going into next week, I think people are really excited about this offense now.
Now, Corey, we stopped the show for you, but we also do it for our friend James B.
Man, that's the man.
Very welcome your thing. He
That's
comes
my
in again
dog.
with a nice tip, dude. I don't know if you got any of that sound effects, Tom. Oh, there we go. Very good. Very good. Very good. So what's up, sir? But he's asking you, Corey, about your thoughts on continuing the youth movement on defense. We talked about earlier. I don't really know. We saw some of those guys, Lundy or some of them come in. I don't really know if it's much better. I know you see more of those young guys in there, but man, I don't think it makes much of a difference right now on that defense.
It does, and I think with the defense, though, it's honestly like you're playing for 2022 and 2021. So, I think if Warner and Emmett Rice are on the field, that first touchdown they had where DJ Lundy just gets completely – not only does DJ Lundy get kicked out wide, which is a really nice block by the kid, by the way, on the counter, but he gets kicked out like a freshman would, and Steven Dix runs straight into the line and doesn't go down the line to fill the hole. Those are two linebackers getting exploited for a huge play. I don't know if it matters if Rice and Warner are there anyway. I mean, they threw a crossing route over the middle. I think was it their touchdown or it was a huge play on their first drive? I think it might have been the touchdown. Where Emmett Rice is trailing.
Yeah.
And then Leonard Warner doesn't feel it at all and basically kind of runs a pick for him. He runs a pick for the Notre Dame offense. So it's not like the seniors are bathing themselves in glory either. So, you play who gives you the best chance to win. I thought Emmett Rice did make some plays as the game went on. Dix has not played well, I don't think, these last 2 weeks, but he's a freshman. He might be really good by the end of this season or the end of next season. So it just depends on what they're trying to do, what they're trying to play for. But no, it's not like he has a great recipe back on the shelf somewhere that he can use. These are the players he has. And if the defensive line continues to look like that, it doesn't matter who plays linebacker.
Now, Corey, you're as old as me in terms of going back to FSU games back to the 80s, and I mentioned at the top of the show, I said this is the worst defense. I thought 2009 was the worst I've seen at Florida State. I really think this is the worst one I've seen. Is it simply a function of just defensive ends that can't contain and linebackers that are constantly out of position and can't tackle? Is it that simple?
I mean, I think it's a lot of things, man. Number one, I don't think they've been coached all that well. I'm not giving Fuller a pass by any stretch. But again, I don't know what you can do. I don't know. You have linebackers that don't trigger, and I know people know I'm a UGA grad, but you guys know I'm not some crazy, ridiculous fan. Like, I watch it objectively. When you watch Georgia's defense attack the football and pursue the football, and then you watch Florida State's defense do the same or try to, it looks like a different sport. It looks like they're playing different sports, and I don't quite understand it. Other than, yes, Georgia's guys are more talented. I get it. But you can still play with some effort. And I think effort lacks at times. Norvell, I listened to some of the press conference afterwards. He kind of mentioned that in a way that they're going to go look at the film and go back and look at effort and great effort, which they always do anyway. But he was asked about the defense's play in the fourth quarter in that last stand, and he brought up, the first three quarters and the effort. And I just don't know how you refuse to get unblocked. Like, you either want, like Mickey Andrews always broke it down to, he either wants to block you or you want to get off the block. It's who wants it more. Now that's pretty simple. That's elementary. That's 80s football. But still, sometimes it does come down to that. You either want to go make a play or you want to just stand there and get pushed around. And it just feels like, especially early in games against good teams, that defensive line wants to get pushed around. I don't think, other than Jarian getting beat on the one play, did the corners do anything terrible? Asante got beat on a play, but that's going to happen.
Well, and it looked like he got pushed on that play too.
Yeah,
even Tarico was like, it might have been a little interference on that play. So really, good job. And I like the fact that they left them one-on-one. I mean, you can't play that zone. You got to leave those guys out there. They're great athletes. Let them do it and try to stop them up front, which obviously didn't work, that game plan. I guess so. One positive, Corey, and I mentioned this earlier, you went from scoring 13 against a bad Georgia Tech team to 26. Like you said, you came within a hair of scoring 5 touchdowns against a pretty good Notre Dame defense. So obviously you found your quarterback. Hopefully Jordan Travis is healthy. And then you got a healthy Tamari and Terry, and we saw a big difference there too. So just
I'm not even quite sure.
Offense.
I'm not even quite sure he's still 100%. He still doesn't quite move like the Terry we've seen, but he made some big-time plays. He made some big-time catches. That's what you were expecting. If he makes that catch against Georgia Tech, Florida State's 2-2 right now. If Jordan Travis was healthy and started the whole season, Florida State's 2-2 right now. I don't want it to always come back down to Jordan Travis's right hand, but if his right hand is hurt and he can't grip a football and throw it, which is what Norvell said, that he was having trouble gripping it at the end, and that's why they put Blackman in. I don't know where the hope is for next week, because
it's Chubba, right?
It's got to be, right? If he's ready to go, it's got to be. You just can't run Blackman back out there. The only reason, when you want to know what the difference is in an offense, it's all about they would have run for 200 yards today if they didn't take those sacks at the end of the game.
Yeah,
against Notre Dame, and thrown for 200. It's all about the quarterback. I think the dude. I might be coming around to the opinion that the dude is legit. Like, he looked good. He made some nice throws. The throw to Terry was nice. He had the throw to Toafili early on, rolling to his right, was really nice. He also made a good throw to Toafili to start the second half, but he got knocked out of it. It got knocked away by the DB on a good hit, but it was still a good throw. It was on time. The last interception, that's a bad throw. And Norvell said if he's going to miss with that, it needs to be outside. It can't be inside towards the field. But also the kid made a good play, and it would have come back anyway for offensive pass interference, which – Florida State still won the battle when it comes to offensive pass interferences between these two programs.
Yes.
But yeah, I think people should be genuinely excited about Jordan Travis. He is a competitor, man. If he can stay healthy, he is a competitor. He gets out of a lot of jams that makes the offensive line look better. He helps LaDamian Webb, who, by the way, is a football player. That is a dude. I think that guy's going to be good. I think Toafili's going to be good. But I just think there's a lot of stuff to build on offensively where you feel good. You feel good about what you've seen, and that all stems to the quarterback. And I think if Jordan Travis hurts his right hand and can't play, it better be Chubba, because you can't go back to the two guys that are stationary, not because they can't be good quarterbacks in this system. They can't be good quarterbacks right now in this system. They have to have a mobile quarterback.
All right, so Corey, here's the question for you. I don't know if this was assigned to you or not that you had to take a side, but if you're writing the column about this game, which you always do, which side do you lead with? Do you lead with the feeling good about the offense, or do you lead with the defense being as atrocious as it was?
I won't do that. I'm not going to do this second one. I think Norvell calling those timeouts, like the last caller was just talking about, calling those timeouts, because I was wondering, what is he doing? Just let this game end. Like, let it end. Why are you trying to call timeouts with 3.5 minutes left to get the ball back? Oh, yeah, you're still trying to win the game. And it's been so long, I couldn't even wrap my mind around that. Well, technically, it is still 2 scores. If you stop them here, you got a chance. Now, we all know they weren't going to win the game, but I think that means something when the coach still is calling timeouts and still coaching like they have a chance to win the game. I do think that means something. So I think I'm going to lead with that. I think I'm going to lead with his belief, what his message is to these players, that they're not going to stop fighting, and that he was willing to call timeouts because it was still technically a 2-score game. He was still spiking the ball late in the game to try to save time. I think that's big. So I think I lead with what it felt like 2 years ago up there. I know the score was, I think the score there was like 42-13 maybe, and this one was 42-26.
13 degrees as well, yeah. Mm-hmm.
But those 13 extra points, for whatever reason, just feel like a world of difference. It just feels like it's something to build on. Again, though, I have to qualify it with if you have a quarterback. If Travis is your quarterback moving forward, I think you can compete in every game you're in this season besides one. But if he's not, I don't know, man. It's gonna be.
Well, we don't know Chubba, yeah, but
it's got to be Chubba. But we don't know what he looks like. But
True.
You do know what this offense looks like with a kid that could run, a kid that can get first downs with his legs, and can also hit an open receiver, which Travis did. I mean, he took advantage. He didn't make any incredible throws, but he made good enough throws to win you the game.
And Corey, the last thing I want before we let you go, I want to get, because I know you're all about time management stuff and how the coaches handle this. The biggest criticism I had of coaching in this game was the end of the half. So you got down under a minute and a half. You're in the red zone. You know it's your defensive done the whole game. They've been a sieve, and they've gone right down the field on you. So then you throw three, when you've run the entire series to get down inside the red zone, and you throw 3 straight times, you kill the clock. So not only is it you have to settle for a field goal, you give them the ball with a little over a minute left. And then, of course, you pooch the kick. So it gives them the opportunity to get the ball down to 40, wherever they were. And of course, then, Lars Woodby commits the penalty too. But putting yourself in that position, to me, that was a huge coaching mistake there down on the goal line.
So I don't mind the first down one, because I didn't think Terry ran a great route, but I think if he runs a good sharp route and Travis throws the ball lower, it's probably a touchdown.
Too high. True.
Yeah. So you don't want to take away a touchdown necessarily, but on second down, once that's incomplete and you haven't run any clock, you have to make sure that's a run. If they want to burn a timeout, they burn a timeout, but you have to make sure that's a running play. And in fact, I think it was an RPO, because if you watch the replay, it looks to me like the receivers are running downfield to block, or the guy he threw to thought he was blocking. So I think it was an RPO where the quarterback just made a bad read and made a mistake. I think in some of those situations where it's an RPO, it's an R. You don't give him the P or the O. In that instance, he hasn't played a lot of quarterback. He certainly hasn't had to manage games late in halves. He needs to know right here, Jordan, it is almost as important that we keep the clock running as it is that we get a touchdown here. So we have to run the ball. I don't care what you see, unless nobody's covering Tamari and Terry. And even then, but if nobody's covering Tamari and Terry, that's the only way you pull this out and throw it. Otherwise, we've got to keep the ball. So I don't want to give Norvell too much grief for the first down play. In the second down play, I give him grief because there's no reason. Because you're right. If they run the clock there another 35, 40 seconds, then Notre Dame might kick a field goal at the end of the half from 45 yards, even with the boneheaded Lars Woodby play. But you gave them life, and they got to score with 10 seconds left. And essentially, that play, that touchdown, along with you not scoring there in the fourth quarter, were the ballgame.
Yeah, because if you run the clock down enough there, even if you kick the field goal, it's 28-20 at half.
Yeah,
I mean,
which is what it should have been.
You're within a score at halftime at Notre Dame, the number 5 team in the country.
You're getting the ball.
And every coach,
you go right out and score down the field. So right then, it's 28-26. Yeah, and you put real game pressure on them. I know you got close. It was within 2 scores. But after they made it 42-26, I still don't know that they felt real game pressure. But they're definitely feeling game pressure if they don't score right before the half. You can't allow that. Also, the defense is allowed to get a stop. Those are allowed. They have happened to Florida State.
But he had to see when they're putting up 365 yards in the first half. You have to know your coach.
You have to coach towards your team.
I'm not going to give them the ball again against that defense. I'm going to run the clock out, kick the field goal, go to halftime down 8 points.
100%. That was egregious. Not only running, you had first and goal, I think at the 10 or first and 10 at the 12 or whatever it was. And I think you ended up running probably 14 seconds off the clock. When you theoretically, you could run it down to 1 second and kick the field goal, which is what you ended up doing anyway. Just that second in the third down play. I don't remember if Travis threw the ball away or took a sack.
No, I think he did. I think that's where they took the time. I think he threw like a 2-yard route.
So they
got him, and then they called the timeout.
Yeah.
But you're right. If they would have at least run on the second down play, I don't know if maybe they could have gotten field goal range, but it's a lot better than scoring a touchdown.
But as goofy as this sounds, isn't it nice that you can go back and pinpoint a drive or two or a decision or two that actually mattered, when usually you play these games and nothing matters? It just doesn't matter. The game is over when it's kicked off. And I do appreciate, and Norvell seemed to as well, appreciate them at least fighting and competing at the end. There's still, what are we thinking? 3 wins, 4 wins at the most on this schedule. But you build off stuff like this. That's a really good team. That they were frustrated with you. They couldn't put you away. I don't think their head coach was all that happy. When was the last time Florida State played a good team where the head coach wasn't happy afterwards? Again, look for positives when you can get them. But I thought there were a few positives, almost all on one side of the ball. But even at the end, it was nice that you got to stand to shut them out. And they averaged 12 yards a carry in the first half, which is just pathetic. It's pathetic. But in the second half, they only averaged like 5. So, hey, just keep feeding the beast, baby.
Got it down to 8.3 for the game.
There you go. Look at that. Hey, first time,
whittling it down.
Corey, first time in 7 games against a top 12 team that you got within 3 touchdowns. So, I mean, look at that progress.
Raise the roof, kids. We're doing it.
Capture that GIF. Capture that GIF.
Good stuff, Corey, man. Look forward to reading your column on warchant.com. And will that be, when is that going to be up? Morning? We look for that. I guess it's already morning, but,
I mean, I'll have it done in an hour or so, hour and
Look
a
at
half.
that.
So whenever Ira wants to put it up, he'll put it up. Peace
All
out,
right.
boys.
Sounds good. Thanks, Corey. Corey Clark, senior writer, warchant.com joins us. I love how he's just out. So
That's
I'm
it.
Corey. I'm out.
Well, Gene, I agree. Before we get to the callers, the thing that pissed me off was the directional kick. Like, find me a reason that's the play you make there, or that's the thing you called. Because off his foot, you can tell that's what he's trying to do instead of kicking.
I can get it if there's like 15 seconds left in the half, and you're trying to run a little clock on a return. Just kick it out of the end zone. Make them go 80. Well,
what's the benefit of tackling him even if it's at the 15-yard line? What benefit is there? I mean, you're risking something for no reason, and next thing you know, a penalty later. Well,
the last minute and a half of that half absolutely drove me nuts. I mean, that is all on coaching. That is not. We're talking about player development, recruiting. That's all on Norvell and that staff. They gave up a touchdown basically for no reason.
Yeah, agreed. Next up, and it has been a little while since we've last gone to the phone lines here on the warchant.com call-in show. It's Meat. He's not the baseball coach, but he's been waiting for a while now. He's from New Smyrna Beach, and he's an old friend of ours. Meat, welcome to the program. How's it going tonight?
Well, boys, it's good to talk to you again.
Meat!
So set the stage a little bit. I want to get to the meat of the matter, so to speak, and then I'll end with the positives. Defense was terrible. Obviously, everybody could have seen that. It was just absolute garbage. But I want your perspective on whether you think it's more of the players or more of the coach, and who takes the blame on that. I think there's a lot of evidence tonight that the players either aren't capable or aren't being coached, and I think a little bit is the matter of perspective. And then, I see a lot of people talking on these forums about 5-star, we need to recruit more 5-star guys. We need to recruit more 4-star guys. Well, I hate to tell you, but dude, this isn't, like I said last time, this isn't the 90s. And if you're not putting a product on the field that guys are attracted to and want to come to, they can have relationships with coaches, but put yourself in the shoes of a 5-star or 4-star player. And if you're being courted by Florida State, Alabama, Georgia, UF, any of these these teams, where are you going to go if you're trying to win a national championship? That's a pretty obvious answer. So you got to start showing improvement before you can have any realistic expectation of having 4- and 5-star guys. So I think expectation management from the fan base is a little bit key for maintaining sanity. And the positive is we didn't quit. I mean, especially from an offensive standpoint, we did not quit. Those guys were out there and they were working their asses off every single play of that entire game, and it didn't always work out in our favor, but those guys absolutely played, and there was a huge improvement that you can tell from the mentality of that team that I have not seen in the last 4 years. So I think that's probably the biggest, the biggest, if you want to think of positive and the big key away, that's it. I mean, the mentality is there, and you can tell that the coaching staff is moving things in the right direction. Maybe we don't have all of the key players in place quite yet, but we're moving in the right direction. And I think we've got to be realistic about how we're going to go ahead and do that.
Meat, you make some great points, man. Appreciate you calling in. That's some good stuff. You're right about not quitting. I like that. I mean, I felt in some of the other games, especially the last couple of years under Willie Taggart, and maybe a little bit in the first game or so about the quit was there. I didn't see that at all. And he brings up a great point about, and I see this, and Michael Langston talks about this all the time. And if you're on YouTube, I encourage you to subscribe. There's a little subscribe button down there. Hit the bell. You get all this content we have, and Michael Langston has a recruiting show he does every Wednesday, and he gets asked this all the time about 5-stars, and he brings up the point exactly Meat said. You're not going to get those guys. Now, as much as we want to get them, it's hard until you can sell a product. Right now, the product is garbage. It doesn't look good. You're not going to get a kid to come here when he sees that product on the field. It's just not going to happen. You need to start developing and look a little better on the field, and you'll start to get better and better recruits. And back to Meat's initial point and question, to me, it's still about the players. Like I said, you have not recruited well at linebacker. You haven't recruited well at defensive end. The coaching staff didn't have much time to work with these guys, and it's for the most part, it's not even their players. So you got to give them a little bit more time. Like I said, if the defense still looks this bad in November, we can start having that conversation. But as Tom and I point out earlier, a lot of times the right defensive call was dialed up. And a guy was there to make the play. The coach put him in a position to make a play, and he didn't make a play. That's not on the coach. That's on the player.
Yeah, it's you're not able to reset the line of scrimmage with your defensive line that you've been counting on. And one thing I will say about tonight, this has been a criticism of mine that I can't levy after watching what I saw tonight. They rotated guys in and out. After the first drive and the way it finished with the touchdown, Emmett Rice came off the field, and you saw that Dix played earlier in the game. Lundy played early in the game. They rotated the players in and out based on merit. They're trying to find some combination that's going to work. And then also Fuller did dial up a lot of pressures. A lot.
Yeah, he had to. Yeah.
You even saw that in Brian Kelly's halftime speech, which is a pretty cool element of that NBC broadcast that you give out the halftime speech in real time.
Yeah.
But he says you could see that they want to pressure on first downs. And to start the second half, Florida State did it again. Coach Fuller dialed up a lot of pressures, 5 and 6 guys coming after the quarterback coming to the line of scrimmage. It affected the pocket a couple of times. I thought on the screen pass that Notre Dame had set up, the pressure forces the bad throw. That's nice to see for once. But you can't levy the criticism that Coach Fuller just stayed back in a shell and let things happen to him tonight. They tried to make the moves. They just don't have the personnel, plain and simple. And it sucks because when I say they don't have the personnel, I'm talking about the entirety of the front 7, the entirety of it. And we thought at least the front 4 would have been good enough to get the job done.
And before you go to college time, you brought up those stats earlier to that point. Imagine this. He was trying to bring pressure all nights with blitzes and everything else. 1 tackle for loss, 3 pressures.
Yep.
Quarterback pressure the entire night. That's unbelievable when you're bringing pressure an entire night. It just shows you, I mean, the disparity between the talent of Notre Dame's offensive line and Florida State's front 7.
After we welcome in Brad from New York here to the Warchant.com postgame show, Gene, I'll pull up those stats again, that disgusting bean footage, so that we can see how it broke down. But Brad from New York, you've been waiting for quite a while. We appreciate your patience, and welcome to the Warchant.com postgame show. Brad, talk to us.
Hey, Tom. Hey, Gene. Thanks for having me. So my original question, you guys have kind of discussed ad nauseum. It was the defensive effort versus the defensive coaching. So if it's all right with you, I'm going to go ahead and ask a question about the quarterback position.
Go for it.
So James Blackman came in when Travis got banged up there. I know it was garbage time. I know it didn't really mean anything at that point, but what do you guys make of that? Do you think that Chubba Purdy is still too hurt to play? Do you think that James Blackman is still number 2 on the depth chart? And the only reason I ask this is because the kind of style that Jordan Travis plays, it's kind of a concern. You know, he runs a lot. He's at risk quite a bit. What do you think we're going to see if Travis goes down in the future?
Yeah, I thought that was. I just don't think they're going to put Chubba Purdy. Everything I've heard is fine to go. He's medically released. Everything's good. He's been suited up the last couple of weeks to go out there and actually play. Did warm ups and everything. I just think in that situation with a couple minutes left in the game at Notre Dame, I don't think that was a good spot to put Chubba in his first series. I think what they're going to do. My guess is at some point they'll design a series for 2 for him, whether that's next week or the week after, for him to maybe come in and work a little bit. I think the coaches know he's the quarterback of the future. It's not James Blackman. They're just going to put in that situation. They're going to put Blackman out there. I don't think that's any kind of saying that if Jordan Travis is hurt, that James Blackman's going to start next week. I don't think we can say that. And it could happen. I would be surprised if that was the case. I don't know if you feel differently, Tom.
No, I think it's an alert question because now you wonder about health, or maybe that brings the health question to the forefront. I think it's a good question for Ira, who was there in South Bend tonight.
Yeah.
Warchant is always on site to cover these events. And it could be that, listen, Chubba was standing there on the sidelines all night long and hadn't done much in the way of keeping loose and warming up. If he wasn't the next guy up for tonight, then there's no sense in rolling him out there if he's cold, meaning he's not loose and ready to go. But Gene, I hear what you hear, which is that, he's been cleared to at least handle the full battery of stuff in practice. I believe he's cleared for contact. We'll see what comes what happens in the weeks to come. But if the question is, what do you think of the quarterbacks behind Jordan Travis and how they fit in the system? Well, Chubba runs the things that Jordan Travis runs. So I think the benefit here, and we talked about this last week on the postgame show a little bit, is you see how the offense looks with Jordan Travis. The receivers, the tight ends, the offensive line, the backs, everybody around the quarterback is now running something that's akin to what they're going to see when it's Chuba Purdy time. And that's a good thing because it streamlines this whole process. But if Jordan Travis is healthy, he's earned the starting gig for at least another week. At least another week. He played really well tonight, considering the duress he was under and the physical beating he took. I thought the interception at the end, Gene, was 30% because he was just beaten to death.
Yeah.
You know, we know about his hand later, but you could just see it. He was exhausted because he left everything out there on the field tonight.
Yeah, 19 carries, 96 yards for Jordan Travis, and every single one of those 19 runs, he got slammed to the ground. I mean, he was hit hard. He's not a big guy. So, yeah, you're absolutely right. I'm really excited about him. I hope he's healthy. Hopefully he's able to come back because, yeah, he is definitely your starter. But you make a good point there. Bringing in Blackman, say what you want about his ability, he's not the same, going to run the same system. So you're changing your offense when you change your quarterback. You're not doing that with Chuba Purdy. I just don't think the timing was right to bring him in. The game was over. It's a road environment. And again, people forget. They go, well, just throw him as soon as he's healthy, throw him back out there. Well, he missed. He practiced basically 1 week before he got hurt. And he's been out. He's just now getting back and getting some practices in. It's not that easy to just flip a switch. He hasn't been around. It's one thing if a guy been in the program for a couple of years. I mean, he enrolled over the summer. So let's give the guy a little bit of time so he's ready to go out there.
I agree. Next up on the warchant.com post-game call-in show is Mike in Tallahassee. Mike, we appreciate you waiting for this long to jump on board with us. Your thoughts and your questions, sir.
Hey, guys. I just wanted to say, since Miami, it seems like we've gotten better and better every week. So I'm very enthused and happy about that. But, we got to figure out the defense. My question to you guys was, all right, if you are an NFL GM today, are you taking Marvin Wilson with your first 3 picks for one to three rounds? And if not, did he hurt his draft stock by coming back?
Mike, that's a great question. I mean, it's crazy because all the analytics on Marvin going into this season were great. I mean, we got all the grades from Pro Football Focus, because it's kind of hard to judge a defensive tackle. A lot of times they're not going to have the great stats just because of the position they play. But when you see these numbers, and they were elite. I mean, he's always among the top 2 or 3 in the country, and that hasn't been the case. What we see in the field is what we're getting in the grades. He's not the same player. I don't know what's happened to him, if he's out of shape or he's just biding his time until he gets drafted. But I do think he's hurt his stock, and I do think if the draft was tomorrow, yes, I agree with you. I think he's hurt his draft stock. He's going to go lower in the draft than he would have a year ago.
Yeah, if I could take Marvin Wilson with one of my first 3 picks, and meaning I have 1 in each round, I absolutely would still. If the guy, I think would
you take him in the first round, Tom?
If I'm in the lottery position, no. If I'm a good team in the later part of the first round, I consider it. Now, here's why. Gene, I think you hit on it. It's the in-shape thing. When we saw Marvin in the spring, well, not just the 3 practices that Florida State ran, but when we were allowed to meet with the team and the coaches for the luncheons over there at the athletic department, Marvin looked to be in the pinnacle of shape, like better than he looked at the previous year's ACC kickoff. And something happened between then and now. And I'm sure COVID, not being able to be around the training facility as you wanted to be from the time that spring practice was canceled through the middle of the summer, had something to do with it. But it's a red flag for me for sure. But if the guy is in shape, the guy is a game wrecker. If I'm picking 10th, hell no. If I'm picking 28th, maybe. If he shows me in the combine, and he shows me, so I get where the caller's going. I get the overriding part of the question because I might not start him on this team right now. I might not. You might want to send a message that, listen, if we've got some younger guys who need to earn
Lovett and Cooper playing better than him right now.
Right, exactly. Well, Lovett is. I mean, Lovett's giving everything he's got. Now, the unfortunate thing, we rolled this stat out there before. Corey Durden had 4 tackles tonight. He was the only defensive lineman to have more than 1 tackle. So you've got a bunch of guys who had 1 tackle, and that was it. Marvin's came late in the game. So you got to have a bigger impact up front. And I wouldn't start Marvin Wilson on my NFL team tomorrow because he's not in shape to play. But, in theory, the player is still a freak. And I don't think it's just the analytics, Gene. I think
that's your point, too. Yeah. I think when it comes down to it, too, even if the season didn't end or he doesn't do much at the end of the season, he can get himself. He gets his agent. He gets in great shape for the combine. He balls out in the combine.
Yep.
And you're right. He's still going to be probably a mid-late first-round pick. But, I mean, I think at this point he has hurt his stock a little bit. But there's still time for him to get back up there.
A place that is near and dear to my heart. I love vacationing over in Pompano Beach. We go to Concrete Knoll. Concrete Knoll on the Warchant.com post-game show. What say you, Concrete Knoll? Welcome to the program.
Hello, Gene and Tom. Am I on?
Yes, you are. Go ahead.
Yeah. Hey, Concrete.
How y'all doing? Yeah, I called in tonight just to give you guys a nugget. One of Florida State's greats, Corey Simon. I had the opportunity to go to school with him. And I'm just looking at this defense, and I'm struggling to understand what's going on with us. I see Emmett Rice. I see Janaris Robinson, both of those guys, and Warner. And it's just hard to deal with coming from the era that I came from. Seem like these guys are just not going for the juggler. They keep diving at people's ankles, and they obviously have the opportunity to hit them, at the hip. It's just hard to deal with at this point for me. Even looking at the third quarter, with 4 minutes and 56 seconds. Filler, I think he's doing the best he can. He has Gant coming in, like Corey said earlier, straight up the middle for a wide open tackle, and he misses the tackle. I'm one of those weirdos. I kind of look back at the game. I be rewinding the stuff and looking back at what's going on. And Tony Dungy even commented on it with 2 minutes and 19 seconds left in the fourth quarter. He says defenses, they have been manhandled, but they didn't give up. I'm just looking at the character that we have out on the field, and a lot of those guys on defense, they're 4- and 5-star players, some of those guys. And I'm just struggling because I've been a no before I was 10, and it's just hard to understand that we can have these 4- and 5-star players out on the field, and they just don't seem to have that grind in them, that heart in them to actually, go and hit somebody and, die for the ball. And I'm just having a hard time understanding how this works with these newer guys, and I'm just looking for some clarity.
Concrete, man, I feel your pain. I'm right with you. I mean, I was there, went to school in the late 80s and then the 90s, seeing the Derek Brooks, the Corey Simons, all those guys, and just relentless swarming to the football, the effort, all the hard hitting. And you're right. It is a hard watch right now. It is very difficult to see this because guys are not fundamentally sound. They're not making tackles. A lot of times it didn't even look like they're giving the best effort. So it's tough, but I think that the problem has been the culture has been so bad the last couple of years, and you got a new coaching staff. As I mentioned earlier, they've had a lot of attrition. A lot of those guys who would be starting right now are no longer on the team, and they're trying to train guys who've come in to run their system and do things their way. And it's been a struggle. It absolutely is. And you're having to start from the ground up. So yeah, I hear you. It's ugly to watch. I do think it's going to get better, but it may take longer than we think or longer than we want.
Yeah, a lot of the errors. And Concrete Knoll, I'm just like you. I will during the commercial breaks. I'm not going to sit there for 3.5, 4 minutes and just do nothing. I'm going to rewind things. And you could tell, especially at the linebacker level, it's easier to see because they're on their own level. They're in their own space. It's like the guys take an extra step or two before they trigger downhill. It's almost like they have thinking steps and then playing steps. Mm-hmm. And the thinking steps leave them, there's one play where Emmett Rice, it's on a touchdown late in the game. Emmett Rice is there. He's got an angle to the quarterback. He's thinking about how he's going to draw the line and create his lane towards Ian Book. Once he makes a decision, he goes full speed, but it's too late. He's 2 steps too late. You know what happens? Ian Book throws it right behind where Rice comes from into the vacated area, and it's in for a touchdown. It's just you see all those kinds of plays all the time, guys getting out of their gaps. The one time Florida State set the edge tonight was the final inside the 5-yard goal line stand.
Waited till the last play of the game.
They did. That's how it's supposed to look. But if you look at one of the touchdowns earlier in the game, you see somebody, it might have been the same guy, is in position on the end of the line, and the first move he makes is inside. They can bounce it outside, and you can, as Corey Clark said, moonwalk into the end zone. it's extremely frustrating. It's a good thing Jordan Travis played so well tonight, or else this would be an even more somber Warchant.com post-game show. But we have a ton of callers still, and Gene, they keep on coming in, and we're so happy about that.
Yes.
Donnie in Charlotte, North Carolina is next on the Warchant.com post-game show. Donnie, welcome to the show, and you've got a positive remark to make. So,
Donnie.
Hang on one second, Donnie. There you go. You got hung up there in a different room. Now you're on the show. Donnie, welcome to the program.
Hey, how you guys doing?
Hey, Donnie.
Good, man. Hey, look, so, I want to talk about Coach Atkins and the job he's doing. I understand everybody's upset about the defense, but I think we better wrap Coach Atkins up, or he could be leaving Tallahassee for another job here shortly. I think he's done an amazing job. If you just think back to the Virginia Tech game, and we couldn't even get a positive yard or a positive, like I said, a positive play, really. And, we're gashing them for over 200 yards. I don't care who's the quarterback. I mean, I think Coach Atkins has done a great job, and I don't think we talked enough about him.
No, Donnie, that's a great point. And you're right. As soon as we got to meet Coach Atkins, you could tell what a bright guy. And I'm not surprised at all. The offensive line. Look, the offensive line the last couple weeks has actually been serviceable. And this is coming from last year when they were arguably the worst offensive line. At least they were, according to Pro Football Focus, 129 out of 130. And now you're getting a serviceable offensive line. I saw a couple times when Jordan Travis dropped in a pocket, there was an actual pocket around him that he could step up and throw. I'm like, what is this? This is Florida State. This doesn't happen. And some holes in the running game, and they're getting used to blocking for an actual zone read, not like the James Blackman zone read where he never runs. So, but I mean, you're seeing that. You're right. I love. You're right. They need to lock Coach Atkins down because they finally found a really good offensive line coach. The fact that he's turned this into something in a short period of time tells you how much progress he's made.
Yeah, there's no doubt, Gene. One thing that I'll say often when I watch a football game, I'm a kind of quiet guy, but I'll say some things over and over, much to the chagrin of my fiance. But one is step up in the pocket. If I'm watching just an NFL game or, James last year with the Bucks or whatever it is, certainly not Florida State in recent years. But now I am, and I caught myself tonight. It's funny you say that because I'm saying step up, step up. You could never say that at Florida State the last 3 years, not consistently, not against a team that's in the FBS, certainly not against a team that's in the top 10 in both polls. It's amazing what he's been able to do, Coach Atkins, because he's created some redundancies, Gene. It's not like they've only had 5 guys play from the first game to now.
Yeah.
Tonight was one of the rare nights where you didn't lose 2 players at some point in the game. Devontae Love-Taylor has played everywhere. You've had some shuffling in the interior between Bavion and Maurice Smith. Love-Taylor played some guard for a while as well. Darius Washington's been in and out. Robert Scott's come in and played right tackle for you. I mean, they've built 6-7 guys worth of depth on this offensive line in a way that I never expected. It is absolutely the number one bright spot this season. I know that Jordan Travis is the sexier name, and the play that he makes, or the plays that he makes, can be dazzling. But that offensive line is completely overhauled in one season, and they didn't even get a spring. That's crazy.
And can we get Love-Taylor to come back for one more year, please? I know you can do it now, man. If he can come back for one more year, like you mentioned, you get the Robert Scott back, Darius Washington in the other year. We'd heard good things about Schrader, Maurice Smith. You could actually have, can I whisper it, a good offensive line next year? Is that possible, Tom? Could we have it?
You could fill out a 2D, practice on 2 different fields and simulate what you want to do offensively.
Wow.
I didn't remark on Lowell, who sent us a super sticker just a little bit ago. Lowell sent us a nice level of a donation and said he's much more amped up and excited for the rest of the season outside of the Clemson game, and he's just about ready to sign up at warchant.com. Good choice, Lowell. Very good choice. And Brad here, we appreciate you as well. Brad needs to be talked off the ledge. He's not feeling as positive as Lowell is right now. He feels okay about a game we lost by 16 points. But I think that's legitimate. Don't we all feel that way, Gene? Don't you feel much better than you thought you would at kickoff tonight?
Well, I know there's no moral victories and a loss. I mean, you don't have them, but I wrote about it when you've lost every game against a highly ranked team by more than 3 touchdowns, and this was less than 3 touchdowns. And I know it was only one side of the ball. It wasn't 2, but there was real signs of progress on offense. Like we talked about, the offensive line actually blocked. You rushed for around 200 yards on offense. You found a quarterback who's dynamic, who can do things. That's something to hold on to. That's very positive. Yes, the defense is horrific. They got a long way to go to even be close to average, but there are some signs. So we're only 4 games in. Give them a little bit of time.
Indeed. Next up on the warchant.com call-in show. This is the post-game call-in show right here on Warchant TV. Make sure you hit subscribe and the bell afterwards. You're alerted every time Warchant goes live with videos like these or content throughout the week. We go to Abraham in Atlanta. Abraham, welcome to the show. Your thoughts this evening, sir?
Hey, thanks. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
I just have a couple of thoughts. The first one, I remember in 2017, there was a player, I think, don't quote me on this, I think it was Jacob Pug, who said that
Jacob Pugh.
Incoming players, because they're so indisciplined, there's no leadership, and they're so set in their ways. The only way for FSU football to move forward was for them to leave the program. And it seems like we really do need a purge. And we really need to utilize our student transfer portal. We need to utilize whatever we can and just to transform this, train wreck. And even though, I appreciate what the new coach is doing, I appreciate what the OCs and the DCs are doing. We incorporated an SEC style football in 2013, and we're able to do a lot of good things. And just to take a page from what Corey said, I really think we need to go back to that hybrid of SEC style defense in the Seminole football culture, so that we can turn things around, not just defensively, but offensively.
Well, yeah, I would love to do that. But again, whether you have a Timmy Jernigan, you have a Telvin Smith, LaMarcus Joyner, you just don't have those guys right now on that side of the ball. So I think that's part of the issue we're getting here. You mentioned the purge. The purge is on. I mentioned there's been 18 guys that have left the program, and a lot of them have been asked to leave the program since Mike Norvell came in as a head coach. So that's been absolutely on. And you need to do that because, like you mentioned, I think going back to 2017, you're right. I was part of that interview with Jacob Pugh, and that was shocking to hear because usually players aren't that honest with us, and he absolutely was. And it's been like that really for the last 3 years. So this is the first coaching staff that's really come in since then. The whole player's accountable, and that's why you're seeing the Fagans go in the transfer portal and these other players do that. So, yeah, you're going to have to take a step back or two before you take steps forward, and you're going to do that through recruiting, through the transfer portal. The nice thing now with the portal, although Miami got shellacked tonight, I don't know the final score, but you can get a lot better with a transfer or two at key positions. We've seen that even with Fabian Lovett, how much, those guys you've had, Devontae Love and Lovett, you can improve a lot of positions. So there is a chance to turn this thing around pretty quickly, but there's going to be a lot of growing pains this year.
There's a lot to a little tonight. I don't know the exact score either, Gene, for Clemson and Miami, but Miami had like 100 yards of offense deep into the game, only a few first downs deep into the second half of the game. It was a scoop and score that allowed Miami to have 10 points at the break. I had it on TV2 earlier tonight. But next up on the warchant.com post-game show is Austin in Winter Haven. Austin, you just heard the bell. That means you're a part of the show with Gene Williams and Tom Lang right here. Welcome, Austin. What question do you have for us tonight?
Hey, man, I just wanted to say that thank y'all for putting this on, man. Y'all do an awesome job. I love that it's on YouTube. I can sit here and watch it live after a game. It's awesome. Thank y'all so much. I wanted to say that everybody's just being super down and everything like that, but we were winning against a top 5 team twice tonight in the first half. We were beating them. And when's the last time anybody can say that about FSU? I mean, really, 3-4 years ago maybe? It's crazy. I'm Coach Norvell, he's going to get it done. He's got to give him some time. But no, my question was, what difference do you think the defense would have had tonight if Hampson Nasruddin had been out there? And also, have y'all heard anything about when he's going to come back, or have you heard anything on his status?
That's a great. Well, I tell you, the tackling would have been better because he's one of your best tacklers on the team, and those guys wouldn't have been running by him. I can guarantee that in the open field. So I think he could have made a difference. Would the FSU win? Probably not, but maybe they could have kept Notre Dame down a touchdown or so than what they had. It's an interesting question. It's been brought up a lot on our message boards over the last several days, and even in this game because he dressed out again. My understanding is he's medically cleared, there's concern from his camp, his family, and so forth. They're worried about the risk of re-injury because obviously he's an NFL guy. He's going to be drafted. He's going to play on Sundays. There's a lot of money in his career, and he's playing it ultra safe. You know, my fear is every game that goes by that he doesn't go out and play makes me think maybe this is a guy that's just going to sit out the year and wait for the draft. So I hope he comes back and plays, but you have to respect it. If he decides, you know what, I'm not want to risk my pro career, I'm going to sit out this season, I completely understand. But at this point, there's been no clarity. And Coach Norvell gets asked every week about him, and what's he going to say? It's up to the kid at this point and his family whether he's going to play or not.
Yeah, at that point, I'd cut the cord. I understand that, if you can work at a Power 5 school and continue to stay in shape and stay in football shape, there's a benefit to that. But there's no benefit to your teammates if you're going to prepare all week, but then not actually play the games. That's a tough.
But what do you do if you're a coach? If a kid says, "Yeah, I still want to come back, coach," and then he's like, I need another week. I need another week. At what point? I mean, you say cut the cord, but it's bad if a kid's worried about his safety. And you're like, get off the team, like. So
I understand that, but I guess it's a difficult conversation because you could sit him down in your office and say, "Young man, are you gonna? You know how much you could help us right now?
Yeah.
Take a look at this film of what the tight ends did to us tonight.
Especially with Travis Jay gone. Man, do you need Hamza right now?
Yeah, exactly. Oh, you could shuffle around a lot of these guys or shuffle them right off the field if you had those two players available on the back end. Next up on the Warchant.com post-game show is David in Gainesville, Georgia. All right, we'll accept Gainesville and Georgia. Welcome to the program tonight, David. What question do you have? What comments do you have? Hello, David. Are you there?
David.
All right, we'll give David one more chance here. It looks like this call-in studio every once in a while, our little screen gets locked up. But now David is in the green, which means he can say whatever he wants to say. Welcome to the program. We've lost David Jean. We'll go pivot next to John in Inverness. John in Inverness. Welcome to the program. What say you tonight, sir?
Gentlemen, how are you doing? I really appreciate you running the show for Knoll Nation. It really is refreshing to get perspectives on different things, especially in this season. So first and foremost, we really thank you guys for staying up late and doing this for all of us.
Our pleasure, John. Appreciate you calling in.
Second of all, I called in a few weeks ago. Listen, I work in corporate America. I've been there for 15 years. And one thing for anybody who's been in corporate America that they can attest to is change. And I think for these young players, they have continually dealt with change over the last 3 or 4 years. They were recruited for certain positions that has continually changed throughout the year. When you look at week one thing that we noticed that changed on the positive side was special teams. We saw what happened with our special teams. We saw what Norvell could do. We knew that was an area where he was very strong. Fast forward 2 weeks after we get murdered, and then now what we have is we have an offense. In 3 weeks after the beginning of the year. I do think that I'm not going to put the blame on coaches really right now. I think there's some blame to take from the coaches on play calling and schemes of that nature. But I think for the most part, I really think it's just the kids are dejected at certain times, continually getting moved around. I don't know how much they listen to the media. And we might not have that top quality, that 5-star, if you will. But we all know a 3-star can play as a 5-star, and a 5-star can just be a flat-out dud. So I think if we continue to recruit, and I saw him, and I don't remember the guy's name, but looks like we got a verbal from a 4-star defensive end the other day, maybe yesterday or so. If we can continue to attract people and just put something good, something competitive out on the field, as we did tonight, I think it's going to be a couple years here, and I think most of us can agree with this, but we're going to turn this thing around. So for Knoll Nation, I just want to stay strong. We got the right guys out there. We might need to shuffle around a few coaches during the offseason, and we're going to continue to bring teams back in, and we're going to compete. Every team goes through seasons like this. So, again, I appreciate y'all's support. Go Knolls.
John, I love the positivity and the perspective. Some really good points. And that's Chambry Jackson, who you're talking about as a 4-star defensive end who committed to Florida State. Yeah, they need more guys like that, especially on the defensive side of the ball. I think defensive end linebacker is going to be a huge priority in recruiting. Again, I'll remind people Wednesday, Michael Langston does a recruiting show. If you want more on what's going on there, you can, like we're doing on social media here, you can call in with your questions there. So, yeah, it has to be started from the ground up, Tom, but he makes a good point. We saw special teams, the immediate improvement. It took 4 games, but we're seeing tangible improvement on offense. Now, defense, maybe it's going to take a little longer, but man, you are having tangible. You never saw that under Willie Taggart. I get all the time on our message where people are like, Well, it's no different than Willie Taggart. What are you talking about? You're seeing in a very short period of time in a COVID pandemic era when the coaches have time to work, you're seeing tangible improvements. No, it's not as much as we want, not even close, but it's actually there.
Oh, well, Gina, I think it's as close to an overnight improvement as you can make on offense for a couple of reasons. Number one, on the offensive line, you're playing some guys with little to no experience and a transfer, and you didn't have a spring to get some of these guys fully vetted out. I mean, a couple of practices, but they only put the pads on one time. And then for Jordan Travis, he's had different physical problems that kept him out of camp and scrimmages, being able to play regularly with the normal quarterbacks. And yet a couple of weeks into his tenure, that offense looks like it has a plan. That's just like it's full marks for the offense with the situation that 2020 has presented them, what they've been able to overcome, and how together the offense looks at this point with a quarterback that they didn't start the season with. It is remarkable in its own way. I know that the bar's low here at Florida State right now. Still, I know also speaking of a different bar, I know a lot of people are hitting those right now. It's just one thing that I hang my hat on week to week now is I'm excited to watch that offensive line. I'm excited to watch the quarterback at Florida State. And that's just such a far cry from where it was 2 and 3 weeks ago. David from Gainesville, Georgia is trying again. He's back. So David, here we go. I've hit you. I've got the green light. David, are you there?
Hey, David, you made it.
Hey, Dickie. Hey, Dickie Lang, Gene, how you doing?
Doing great, David. Thanks for calling.
Hey, guys. This might sound like blasphemy for FSU fans, but what do you feel about the coaching job of Coach Odell Haggins? These guys are gassed. They're always out of position. I know he's a great mentor and man, but the blame has been on the D coordinators over the last few years. But really, if you look at it, the last 20 years outside the D line of 2002, 2003 with Bunkley, Wembley, Dockett, Travis Johnson, and of course 13-14 with Timmy J, Christian Jones, Mario Edwards, Eddie Goldman, I feel like it's been average. I know with Booster's alumni, it won't happen. Should he retire or his job be on the line? If he doesn't retire, where is the disconnect with the D-line development?
Well, I think we got to break this out a couple ways. I mean, he coaches the interior of the defensive line. He's not coaching the defensive end. So we're talking about those guys. And I think really the two guys we're talking about here is Corey Durden and Marvin Wilson have massively underachieved. I think Robert Cooper and Fabian Lovett have been fine. They played decently. So, I mean, I don't know. He's had such a long history of being a really good interior defensive tackles coach. I'm not willing to throw the towel and say he needs to retire yet. I think he's got a couple guys for whatever reason are just not performing up to snuff. I don't know if that's coaching or, as we mentioned about Marvin Wilson, maybe it's a conditioning thing with him. Maybe he's not in shape. I don't know what the deal is, but that's not on Odell. I'd have to see more evidence because he's done so many good things for such a long period of time before I'm willing to say he needs to step down and retire. He has nothing to do with the defensive ends. And to me, that's more, and I like Coach JP, John Papuchis. Again, I think that's recruiting. I think, for whatever reason, Janarius Robinson just is not a very good defensive end. He just isn't. I just see it over and over. Great kid. I know he's got great history. Just a Panama City kid. And Kando's coming off that injury. He just doesn't seem like the same guy he was that we all thought he might be coming out of high school being a 5-star recruit. He's just not.
Yeah, Janarius can flash at times because he's so strong and he can bull rush a tackle back towards the quarterback, but you need him to set the edge at times, and he's not doing that. To answer the question on Odell, I think his group is failing, and the buck stops with the position coach and the coordinator, so it's not a good look for him. But if you're going to make the argument for Odell, you're going to look at Lovett, you're going to look at Robert Cooper and see their development and say, well, I mean, clearly some guys are capable of getting better and looking the part. It's a mixed bag, though. It's certainly not a 100% approval rating of what's going on in that group because it's basic stuff, Gene. It's pad level. Some of it might be want to, but there are some serious questions that Odell has to be pondering on the team flight home and serious questions he's been, just befuddled by the last 2-3 weeks because this does not look like the group we expected it to be. The last few calls tonight on the Warchant.com call-in show, we go to Todd in Missoula, Montana. All right, we truly are an international show right here. There we go. Todd just dropped out. So we'll go to Chris in Perry, Georgia. Chris, it's late for everybody. Chris in Perry, Georgia. You've got a positive take tonight. Chris, go ahead.
Hey, good evening, guys. Thanks for taking my call again. Fun fact real quick before we start. I grew up down the street from Willie Reed.
All right.
Yeah, he's a nice guy, too.
We could use him right now.
About the office. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I just said we could use Willie Reed right now.
Oh God, 3 of them would be amazing.
Yeah.
Have a couple little comments real quick, and then a question, if you don't mind. First off is, the whole Chuba Purdy thing. It's, with a musculoskeletal injury, it can kind of get to the point where a coach might not feel comfortable. If they're not comfortable playing him, people kind of need to drop it. Don't push it and ruin a product before you get to use it. So, and then second on the Jordan Travis thing, let's look at the positives here. This guy is not the lemon he was advertised as to us. He's got some sparks, and he's really rallying the team. Sorry. So let's, use that, because he's obviously making Terry play better. He's making the running backs play better. Everybody. And then lastly, my question is, do we know of any non-scholarship players that are getting significant play time on the team?
Yes, we do. Tom? Who am I thinking about? I know we got one guy they brought in as a tight end. The tight end.
Yeah, his name escapes me at the moment as well, but he's been playing a bunch this year.
Yeah.
As a lead blocker, usually in that power counter action that Florida State likes to run. They had success with it last week against Jacksonville State. You're seeing obviously how big of
I'm sorry to cut you. Preston Daniel.
Thank you.
Is the walk-on tight end. He's getting a lot of playing time. This goes back to the injury of, they got hurt there. Jordan Wilson, the transfer from UCLA, was supposed to be. He would have been their primary, at least their blocking tight end, but he was a senior guy that was coming to play. He got hurt in the preseason. So they're very thin at tight end. So Preston Daniel, they've really impressed the coaches, and he's gotten a lot of playing time.
Yeah, he's out of Memphis, Tennessee, so you can understand why he might have had a direct line into Coach Norvell. But outside of that, I don't know. Maybe some guys on special teams, but you've seen some freshmen out there. Obviously, DJ Lundy got some time tonight at linebacker, but Preston Daniel is the only walk-on that comes to mind for me. Next up, it looks like we have him back. All right, so we'll try it again with Todd in Missoula, Montana. Todd, welcome to the program. Go ahead with your thoughts.
Hey, thanks for having me on. I'm very excited to talk to you guys. Last time I went to the Notre Dame game 2 years ago, Tom, I was actually on the bus you heading over there. And I got to stop more game this time than I did then because I had way too much on that bus right there. But anyway, hey, great watching offense tonight. One thing I wanted to point out, I don't know if you guys have kept up with sports today, but from around the country tonight, I don't know if you saw all the Florida Big Three lost tonight, today. Clemson put 42 on Miami. Jimbo put 41 Gators. We gave up 40 tonight. Alabama gave up 38 tonight. LSU gave up 45 in their game. North Carolina gave up 45 in their game. Defenses are really putting up a lot of points to decent offense.
So, Todd, we had to drop that call there. The connection quality was not so hot, Gene, but I think I understand where he's going. A lot of points are being scored across the country, not just in the state of Florida tonight, where Clemson drops 42 on Miami, and A&M and Florida was an offensive war. A&M could have run the ball at will. Jimbo figured that out in the second half on the way to a 41-38 win. The Alabama-Ole Miss game looked more like a Big 12 game than it did an SEC game. I think Todd's point is salient. The trend, it's not just in the Big 12 anymore. You've got to score a lot of points to win. And how does that jive with what you're watching with in Florida State? I hope I'm finishing your question correctly, Todd, but the phone connection there was a little shaky.
Yeah, he was talking about, and it's funny, I think Tirico and then brought that up during the broadcast, talking about all the scoring across. And if you follow the NFL, it's the same thing. It's interesting how scoring is at an all-time high in the NFL as well. And you have to wonder, obviously it's not a coincidence. This is all happening. It has to be part of it, not having the off season. Maybe it's the tackling or whatever the deal is. We're not seeing. Yeah, I was wanted to put up that scoreboard to look at some of these scores, and it's crazy to see what you're seeing. I mean, Missouri putting up 45 on the defending national championships. That's Missouri.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Texas A&M, just Jimbo Fisher's horrible offense, 41 on the Florida Gators. Now, the Gators have no offense, obviously. Georgia, 44 points. I mean, Oklahoma, Texas. I don't know if you caught that game. I feel sorry for your fiance who had to sit through that for 4 overtimes.
Yeah.
To see Texas below that one. How about North Carolina, Virginia Tech, over 100 points scored in that game? What are we doing here, Tom? What has happened to the defense? Is this the day the defense died? What is going on here?
I have no idea. I liked it better, Gene, when it was relegated to most Big 12 games and a few Pac-12 games.
Yeah.
There.
I don't like this. I'm a defensive guy. I don't like these huge scores.
No, we've been talking about it on the Cameron Show during the week, which you can find ESPNTallahassee.com Monday through Friday, 3 to 6. It's maybe you got to start running the clocks on first downs, because if this is going to be the norm where you've got to score 42 to win a game comfortably or just win the game even in a close shave, all these things are going to take 4.5 hours. I mean, as we signed on at the conclusion of Florida State and Notre Dame coverage on NBC, Alabama and Ole Miss were still going strong. So it's just, and that game started at 7. It's crazy, some of these games that are happening. And, but it does look different for Florida State's defense. When you're giving up essentially 10 yards per carry until you get into garbage time tonight, that's a little bit different than what you're seeing. And
I watched some of these other games, and I watched some of the Florida A&M game and some of the Texas. It seemed like there was a little bit more fight, even though they were putting up comparable points. You just didn't see them being gashed consistently like Notre Dame was against Florida State. So it's a little bit of a different animal, but the point is well taken. Defenses are way behind offenses right now.
Our final caller tonight is from Gainesville in Florida. Okay, that's all right. We forgive him already. Lyndon from Gainesville, Florida joins the Warchant.com postgame call-in show. Welcome to the show, Lyndon.
How we doing?
We're hanging in there, Lyndon. How are you doing?
Oh, man, I'm doing good. First off, I want to give a shout out to Coach Norvell, in his new mission that he's taking. I think in the long run, we're going to be all right. And I think he's going to get the players that they need. Just take a little time. Everything don't happen overnight. We just got to be patient. But I'm on this bus and we're going to ride. Secondly, the defense. I feel like we move a little people around, different little spaces. I don't know who we can move, who we can afford to adjust, but maybe like moving Ruby or somebody to the defensive end could be a little bit more physical for us. Because, man, we need a pass rush. We get a little pass rush through defensive stops, I feel like we'll be all right. Right now, I don't fear nobody but Clemson, and I feel like we could be all right. How you feel about that?
I love the positivity, Lyndon. You're right. It's just a couple things, a little bit better tackling, keeping better contained, a little bit more pressure, man. You could be okay because it looks like the offense is starting to click a little bit. I'm there with you. But, man, I don't know how you get that pass rush. As Tom brought up earlier, all the stats. I mean, you brought blitzes. You did all kinds of stuff. You got one tackle for loss the entire game. I mean, this is the best offensive line outside of Clemson you're going to see all year. Yeah. So maybe you can dial up a little bit more against some of these other teams that don't have a good offensive line. But, man, the defense just in those aspects and the pass rush and the play by the linebackers has a long, long way to go.
Yeah, there is no doubt, I think, that this is the best offensive line, Clemson included, that Florida State's going to see this year. If you look at the pipeline that Notre Dame has been to the NFL in the last 5 seasons or so, it should be no surprise. But it doesn't mean you should give up 8 yards of play and 10 yards of rush in the balance. Overall, though, I think Lyndon's point is well-founded. You look at the games like NC State and Duke and Virginia, which they got blown out by NC State earlier today. Who saw that coming? I know that Virginia had some COVID issues, but that doesn't explain NC State beating you as badly, hanging 38 on you. You've got Pitt. I mean, those are 4 games right there that are coming up for Florida State's schedule where I'm thinking, okay, you got a chance to win that, especially if the offense is helmed by a healthy Jordan Travis. You got a chance to be in all those games. I don't know that North Carolina next week is a winning proposition, because what are you going to do to stop Sam Howell? I have no idea, but we'll talk about that next week.
Really, Tom? We got to go to that right away. You're going to make me feel bad about
primetime game, too. Late next week. Gene, any thoughts as we stretch into the 1 a.m. hour here on the Warchant?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, we need to wrap it up, and I appreciate it, man. We got, we've had over 1,000 people for most of the night watching us live. We appreciate you guys and all the calls and everything else. We're going to have a lot of good stuff coming up on Warchant. Ira's up in South Bend. I love this call-in show in the pregame when he was just tractors are going by him, and he was not happy being in South Bend. But
it changed him. He's usually an upbeat guy.
Yeah.
Life.
That's why Ira gets a big bucks, man. But we're sending Corey to Louisville. He's got to go back, so he's a good trip to Louisville.
He gets to go to the track. He'll be going to the horse track. I know Corey.
Yeah, but you know what? I get it. I get the defense is horrific and it's painful to watch it. But man, like a couple of the callers pointed out, there are some positives. There are substantial positives we've seen with this team just through 4 games. There's a lot to work on defense. I get it. They need to recruit better. They get some transfers. They need to be coached up better. I get all of that. But there are some signs, like you said, Tom. There's now hope we get to November, they can compete with the Pitts and the Dukes and teams like that. The way they looked the first couple of weeks, I don't know if they're going to win a game, or maybe Jacksonville State might be their only win this season. There's a good chance they could win a few games, and you can build on that. You can start to get better recruits and build from here.
Yep.
So there are some positives. I'm not trying to be a rah-rah guy. Everything's going to be fine. This team has got real substantial problems, but we do see some signs. So don't give up. It's going to get better. Just hang in there.
Yeah, I feel more positive than negative. I'm not always the optimist after games like this, but this is one in which you see so many good things. LaDamian Webb, his performance tonight. How do you not love that?
Yeah.
Dorian Terry, I mean, he had some drops again, and that drives me nuts. But how about a tough catch in traffic late in the game? And Ira's going to write about this, I suspect, because I saw a tweet from Ira during the game that said, say what you will about the drops, but this is the toughest I've seen Tamorian Terry play for 4 quarters in a long time. So, and then you have Jaden Lars Woodby commit a stupid penalty, and Mike Norvell yanks him off the field. There are consequences if you don't do what
Which didn't happen. That's a great point you brought. That did not happen the last few years. We didn't see that. Guys would get in fights, and they'd be in the next play.
The next man up, Gene, might not be good enough, but they're going to put the next man up on the field if you don't do what you're supposed to do from an aptitude standpoint, or you just make a mental error. And that's all you can ask for at this point. Is it what should be at Florida State? No, but it's the mess we have with us right now. But Gene, it's been a fun ride tonight. Obviously 42-26 is not what you want, but I think there's going to be some positive chatter on the warchant.com message boards this week. And if you haven't signed up yet, there's your code right there, Warchant30 for a 30-day free trial at warchant.com. We'll be back here next week on the warchant.com postgame show. We so appreciate everybody who dropped in a comment, especially the super stickers and the support for the show. Very appreciative for Terry, who's staying up late with us and screening the calls tonight.
Good job, Terry. Appreciate it, buddy.
I'm going to hit the end show, Gene, so we can hear the angry guy say goodbye.
Yes.
And then that's going to be
We are sorry, but the show has ended. Goodbye.
Listen to how angry that guy is.
Get the hell out of here.
Well, I agree. Gene Williams, the founder and administrator of Warchant.com. My name is Tom Lang. We appreciate you for tuning into the Warchant.com postgame show. We'll see you next week.
Good night, all.